Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Foot Traffic. I am so excited because I have one of my favorite people with me today, Selina Gray. Selina, welcome to Foot Traffic. I know you've been here before, but welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you. So tell everybody, in case they haven't heard a recent episode with you, a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, who you are, who you serve, and then we'll just dive in.
Absolutely. So I am a CPA and a financial empowerment coach. And I had a high flying corporate career, massive team of 30 people. I worked in 12 countries worldwide. I was always commuting and working with government and other teams of CPAs. And my body just really gave out on me. I had these really succinct expectations to get to a place of retirement early. And so I was willing to put in the effort. And then, yeah, health says,
Mhm.
and I ended up in the hospital for over 20 days. And I had blood transfusions and IV steroids, and I came out with an autoimmune disease. And I really needed some reflection time after that to say, what am I doing in this life? And I don't know if anyone can resonate with feeling overwhelmed or overworked at any point, but there's a lot of A-type personalities that listen to you, Stacey. So I believe
Yes.
some people can resonate with that. And I just really realized that I had a deeply unhealthy relationship with money, that I had focused so much on praise and power externally and making money that I lost sight of what I actually wanted and what I really valued. And in all those years of working, 8 years overseas and back and forth from my home city, I missed out on a lot of really important things with
Mhm.
family and friends. And I had an unhealthy relationship with money. So in 2011, I started pouring into this idea of conscious wealth. And over the years, my company has really morphed into helping humans honor their relationship with money. Most people don't realize that they have a relationship with money, it's just external to them. So I focus on the state of being connected to yourself with money. Of course, there's strategy with that. My bean counter CPA comes in with strategy, but also mindset, that money is
Mhm.
within us and around us, and how we interact with it is far more powerful than the numbers themselves. So I specifically work now with women entrepreneurs, making more revenue, keeping more profit, and really diving into this concept of inner richness so we can be rich from the inside out.
I love that. Now, when you said you worked so hard in the beginning so you could retire early. Now, I don't believe the old Selena would have ever retired early. Do you believe that? Never.
No, I feel like that was my thought process. Like looking
Mhm.
back at Selena from that stage, she was addicted to all of the
Yes.
fun things, the first class travel, the fancy parties, the power that came with it. And there's part of that still within me today. I
Yeah.
love working, I love helping people, and I think it's just a fulfillment of life. And so part of that was society's expectation. You work hard to retire early.
Yeah,
And
right. That's why you were
you know,
doing it.
and
Yeah.
it's a recalibration now of just working for joy and really the greater good for myself and others.
Yeah. I think we have to really understand our personality type. Selena and I are very similar. Like it's almost scary. Like I'll post something, she'll be like, my dad does that too. Everything about us is very similar. But I think a lot of people listening probably resonate with you and myself. And we're very similar in the sense that we probably won't retire early. We probably will still
I love
love
it
what
too
we do.
much.
Right. We
Yeah.
truly love to work. And I think I had probably some very similar thought processes too of, oh, I'll do this one day, I'll do that one day. And I finally had to look at myself and look at my habits and go, I'm probably going to work until my brain allows me to work. Like, let's be real here because I love it. And so do you. And so do a lot of our listeners. So I appreciate you sharing that information. Now, as you are somebody who is this like really a strategist and somebody who talks about wealth consciousness, let's kind of dive into that a tiny bit for our listeners because 2020 has whether it's financially impacted somebody immediately or maybe they're nervous it will still impact them like they're waiting. I keep saying I feel like this is the calm before the storm, right?
Yeah.
What are you how are you kind of keeping calm? How are you teaching your people to like weather this storm?
I think for many of us, we look to the numbers to guide us. And to me, that's exactly opposite of what we should be doing. Numbers is a significant part of wealth, of course. We need to know our cash flow. We have to know our numbers. That's a requirement. But to me, it's more than that. We come from within. We look at what are we trying to do? It's a beautiful invitation to come back to as a business owner. What were we achieving in 2020? Do we still align to that? What brings us joy? How do we enjoy working with the clients we want to work with? What has 2020 taught us? And using that information to refuel ourselves rather than take us out, using the numbers themselves to say, great, what happened in prior periods? What knowledge do I have that can get me there? And so it's a two-part thing for me. Number one, mindset. Like 70% of money work is mindset work. And so you really have to come back to owning your worth. Regardless of what's happening externally with the pandemic, as a business owner, where are your zones of genius? How can you be earning money and really spending time in that place of like connected to yourself first and foremost, and then looking at your business and your life and saying, and I know you've talked about this extensively, you and I, about what we value, and recalibrating that. And then the 30% left, strategy, executing those ideas. And we can still be very A-type, even in an environment where we have no control, and I think that's really imperative for me this year as a business owner, as someone who has a money story like we all do, is to really recognize within us where our trigger points lie. So my personal viewpoint, when I'm in stress mode with money, I want to hoard money. It's like a natural reaction to me.
I'm exactly the same way. I'm like, you can't have enough cash right now. Like, just keep saving it.
Yeah, and that's a stress response. And so I encourage everyone to like think about their immediate reaction and to say, like, how is this honoring me? Is this something that I, want to do, or is this a stress response? And then act accordingly. So my stress response is to save all the things, but then what is that costing me? To feel that way and to act that way, because we can be missing out on some beautiful opportunities inside our business to invest in, so really remembering that our thoughts create our actions and knowing where we're coming from, a stress response or actually a place of like, no, I'm empowered. I can do this. I believe in my gifts. I believe in my company and my worth. Those are two very different places. And all of that is connected to our money mindset. And so if you've been feeling stressed, which all of us have during this at some point, coming back to like what we deeply value and what we want, and knowing our reactions and saying, where's that safe zone for me to feel comfortable? Like for our personality types, we do need to save right now, and that's important. But going, do I need to save it all? What feels like a good range? Looking at the bigger vision and saying, no, I have the possibility to make this happen. If you're someone who wants to spend, it's imperative, no matter your personality or stress response, to not shame yourself, to just get curious and say, oh, why am I reacting this way? And do I want to retain that thought? How can I shift away from it? So mindset work is unique to everyone. Our money story is unique. It's like a fingerprint. So I encourage everyone this year to explore your thoughts and reactions around money and say, is this what I want to do? Because I have choice in it.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer too in like those thoughts. You bring that energy. People see it, they feel it. Your customers, your clients, right? Your team, you need them to feel the right energy to get them to, it's that like ripple effect, right? So one of my team members, I was even talking to them, I was talking to somebody, maybe even my clients, about something. And I said, oh, this wasn't even my idea. It was Trisha's idea. And Trisha's like, yes, but you got me to get that confidence. Like, you gave it to me, you passed it to me. And then I felt that way, but it was because of something you said. And you've got to be really careful, because we are in fight or flight mode right now. And the decisions we are making in this moment out of fear, right? Do you really want that to be the place you're coming from, making decisions for your future? Scary.
And what you just said there is so imperative, because so many of us automatically remove our belief in ourselves when we get into stress response. So I love to say to my clients all the time, borrow my belief in you. Use that as fuel. And that's exactly what you just said from your team member. It's like, how do we keep each other motivated? And that's something I call connection is currency. We have to be surrounded by people who are inspiring us to keep going. When it's hard, you can quit or keep going. And I'm always about how can we be making this the best it can be, and not to a place of toxic positivity, because that's unhealthy.
Right.
But we always have a choice, even when we're back against the wall. There's always
Mhm.
risk to everything that we do, and foundationally to that is believing in what's possible. That is money mindset. We always have a choice. We can control our thoughts. If you need a couple of days to
Yeah.
feel the feelings, do it, and then say, okay, what do I want, and get back
Yeah.
on it, and have your dream team around you to help you.
Mhm. What has 2020 taught you? Like, what has been a takeaway or two?
Oh, 2020. Um, I really feel that it's taught me resiliency at a level I didn't comprehend.
Mhm.
I know you can relate to this because of our personality types. We keep saying that, but we
Yeah.
really are similar. When we set an action plan for the next year and we want to execute on it, and we make small inspired actions to get us there,
Yeah.
and then there's a massive curveball, it can feel debilitating. And resiliency is really important now, because something can happen. It feels like the punches keep coming this year and they're outside the
Mhm.
scope of our control. So really grounding into resiliency and saying, like, no, I have the toolkit. I may have never gone through this before, but I have the toolkit to make it happen. I keep my mindset strong. I nourish my body. I keep my community around me. And the other piece of 2020 that I always knew, but has been fully reinforced to
Yeah.
me, is reoccurring revenue. Reoccurring
Yes.
revenue, so that when
Mm.
you're having an off week, you
Yeah.
can rely on the fact that your business can still flourish because you've already invested and put the work in to see the
Mhm.
results happen. So if anyone's really going, oh, I feel scared, in my money story for the future, how can you look at your business and create reoccurring revenue? Because that gives you a safety net.
It really does. So we had a client who I was like sad and scared for her, but all of a sudden she said, I'm not a reoccurring model. She was like a children's play space where you just showed up and bought a ticket that day. And she's like, we literally went from being very successful to $0 a day with nothing in sight. Now, thankfully, she was resilient and she chose to be resilient and to come up with some other ideas. And she had some amazing things that she was doing. But I can guarantee you there's a lot of people out there without reoccurring revenue that didn't choose to be that person, that are probably out of business right now. Reoccurring revenue is, I can't stress how important it is.
Essential.
It really is, yeah. Especially in something like this where it can just go away tomorrow. That's so scary. So one of the questions I was going to ask you was like, I was phrasing it like, who, like, what did 2020, like, who did it make you become? And I was like, no, no, no. Who did you choose to be in 2020? That is a much better question because it didn't do anything to us, right? Like it happened and we got to decide what we wanted to do with it. So, who have you chosen to be this year?
I've chosen to be a heart-centered leader. I
Mhm.
really look at my community and my clients and say, like, look, we have to feel our way through this. Ignoring your feelings, especially around money, is really detrimental.
Mhm.
So I have been willing to go to the places that are scary this year. I made the brave decision when I have clients who were also, coming up against hard choices, to say, look, you choose you. And I think that's imperative, because we can get so fixated on how many clients we have and how much money is coming in, and really focus on the lack that can
Mhm.
occur. And letting clients go, trusting in my gifts and my possibilities, new doors opened this year, that I
Yeah.
never would have foresaw at the back end of 2019. And
Mhm.
just that resilient leader and that heart-centered leader who I really am, unmasked, just showing up and caring about relationships and people. And I think that that looks differently for everyone. I'm not
Mhm.
suggesting everyone go and just let their clients go, but I think on a case by case basis, really seeing people for who they are and looking beyond the possibilities, like what could impact next year and the following
Right.
year, and having that bird's eye view. That's who I chose to be. I kept looking at everything and saying, what is the best possible outcome from this? I can choose to see the negative, or I can be resilient. And as a leader, that's how I identify. People
Mhm.
are always looking to us to make decisions. And so I wanted to stand in my own power, trust my gut, my inner richness,
Yeah.
as I would say, and really not be a victim to 2020. I wanted to stand in my power and be like, no, I can do this. And I've been proud to say that in my group program, so many of my women entrepreneurs have had record breaking years because we
Mhm.
all stood in the fire together in the mud and said, okay, yes, the punches keep
Right.
coming, but we can do this. We're a strong community. Let's strategize. Let's use all of our tools in our toolkit to get through this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because when you're in a community that is positive, like they're optimistic, they're forward thinking, they are go-getters, they are resilient. We live in this like alternate universe where we are like, oh no, everybody is doing well, right? Everybody is having breaking months, and like we had our best September ever, and I can just feel it's going to continue to get better and better. And it's like we forget that that's not the norm right now. And if you're listening and you aren't in a world where that's normal, or you're hearing success stories during the pandemic, you better get to one of those rooms fast.
And to give yourself some grace,
Yeah.
some people have weathered unimaginable storms this year. And
Hmm.
I think that you don't have to compare yourself to someone else's story. That's the really critical piece for me is everyone's
Hmm.
business is unique, everyone's
Yeah.
mindset is unique, and your money story is unique. So if you're feeling a charge from other people's success, like an emotional like response that's negative, invite yourself to think like, okay, what if I allowed myself to get really excited about my business? What if I made this the best it could be? And what if I had to shift my community so I had a few more positive people? Like you said, get
Yes.
in those positive groups because it really helps. If you're having a bad day, you can lean on the community and they're like, Selina, come on. Like
Yeah.
you borrow that belief like we were talking about, and it really takes that trajectory and it's limitless. It really is. Because
Yeah.
if we can have record breaking years in a pandemic,
Correct. Yeah. Right. Um, you set the tone, right? So when you're talking about being this leader, whether it's people on your team, whether it's your family, right? Maybe you have somebody in your family right now that is not doing well with this. You can step up and be the leader, and even leading your clients, right? They love the positive right now. They need it. They are like it's like that moth to a flame, right? They see it, they want to be there. What in 2020 are you most proud of? Like what is your biggest like success moment? Not saying this is a financial thing, just in general, like what is something where you're like, I was really proud of this thing that happened?
yeah, that's a beautiful question. I think for me, it's just owning my strengths.
Hmm.
And that's an ongoing conversation. Like I have many moments, like I had a record breaking launch this year, and I could absolutely say that. But when I really think about the true resilient moments that I'm proudest of, it
Hmm.
was when, I knew that I couldn't be all of the things for my community. And I leveraged my own to bring in help and resources and go outside myself. I feel like sometimes as leaders we feel like we have to be all the things,
Right.
especially in our programs. And I think for me it was just really owning what I'm good at
Hmm.
and showing up fully for my circle, my community, my friends, my family, my clients, and then knowing my own limitations, because that can be very depleting. And I think
Hmm.
for everyone that's essential. Like
Right.
we in stress response, for me, I always feel like I have to help others. And of course I want to. That's, I feel like, just a good characteristic of a human being,
Yeah.
but not at the expense of oneself. And this year with so many things popping up, it's really easy for us to feel depleted. And so when I look back at this year, I feel like I was consistently willing to pull to my strengths, to show up and care about human beings, regardless of the financial outcome.
Hmm.
And the universe always responds to that. I really believe that, like you said, our energy matters. It
Hmm.
attracts other positive beings and other positive experiences. And yeah, it turned out to be a really good year in many regards. And, there I could focus on the negatives, but that doesn't bring us any good. You
Right.
take the lessons from that negativity and say, well, how will I draw on that in the future? And
Hmm.
so we don't always have to be on.
Right.
There's going to be bad days. I think being human is an essential piece of that. So me unmasked, showing up for other people, but honoring my own boundaries,
Hmm.
led to really good launches and really good
Yeah.
client record breaking years and lots of celebrations, even in
Right.
a challenging year.
Right. Now, as 2021 is coming and it's that fresh start, like everybody just loves the new year, but I'm thinking this year, it's like, we're
This
really going to love
decade
it.
is
Yes. So what does that mean for you? What are you thinking of? What have you been already? I'm sure you're already thinking about what 2021 is going to look like. Like, where are you going to go from here?
Yeah, I really missed speaking from stage in 2020. That is
Yeah.
like one of the things that lights me up the most. You know this, you're smiling because
Yeah.
I even got to speak on your stage. It was
Yeah.
awesome in Milwaukee last year. But certainly that's a undecided thing for next year. So I'm really going to continue to foster connection any way I can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take all the lessons from 2020 as far as like how to reframe my programs and how best to serve my community and how to just be a thought leader in a space when stress can really take us out financially. Like there is a domino effect with money mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
so my goal is to just continue to share so that people, even if they can take one small thing and put it into action, that can create a really big ripple effect for change. So 2021 is filled with new possibilities. I'm going to take as many of the lessons as I can from 2020, but my big focus is continuing to nourish my body, my mind, and connect with other people.
Yeah, I love that. What was the best piece of advice somebody gave you during the pandemic? If you got any, I assure you got some
Oh,
advice, but
yes.
what was the best thing that somebody said or that you read or you saw or that made you kind of go like, okay, I needed to hear that?
Two very simplistic things come to
Okay.
mind. So I'm just going to share that. So, number one, the phrase, this too shall pass.
Mm,
I think that every day, you know, if we've been quarantined or at home and it's a bit of a groundhog day
yeah.
happening, you can lose sight of your passion. And one of my team members, actually, Carolyn, said to me, you know, Selina, this too shall pass. She's like, one day we're going to look back at this and say, like,
Right.
what did we do to create change? How did we make the impact we've always wanted to when we didn't have these limitations? And I've always hung on to that because there's so many things that happen to us and we can really deeply feel them in the moment, but coming back
Hmm.
to the bigger vision of our life and our business is essential. So
Hmm.
that number one for me. And then number two,
Does she
just,
know that that was a key thing that you remember?
I don't know, I'll have to,
I'm
I
curious. Yeah.
know we've addressed it a couple of times,
Yeah.
but let her know that that's such a big impact
Yeah.
on me. The other thing with me personally is that I tend to overgive at the expense of myself. It's a stress response. We keep speaking
Mm-hmm.
about stress response, but I feel like 2020 is an entire
Yes.
stress
Entire
response.
year of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so remembering that, you know, I always speak about the amount of money, we expend, is how we choose to love ourselves. And someone rephrased it back to me as the energy that we have is how we choose to love ourselves and how we
Mm,
expend it is essential. And so I loved that reframe because every day we wake up with a certain amount of energy. And are we going to
right.
choose to pour it into negativity? Are we going to choose to pour it into positivity? What are our action steps that are going to move us closer to our goals? And I believe that's something you do really well. You're
Thank
always
you.
like, okay, what's next? And
Hmm.
and allowing yourself to feel your way through things is really about healing it. And so if you've
Right.
got money trauma happening this year, or you're really feeling grief about this year, allow yourself to feel it rather than bypassing it, because that's the quickest way through it. And
Yeah.
I've had some grief this year. There were stages I was excited to be. There's nothing like for me standing on stage and
Yeah.
feeling hundreds of eyes. That just lights me up. And so
Right.
it's recreating versions of that. And I think we don't always know what's coming, but because of life, we can tend to predict. This year,
Hmm.
all of that is gone. And so being
Yeah.
open to being pliable and shifting our old schools of thinking is essential. So I would say things passing and that using our energy wisely, we're most
Yeah.
effective.
Yeah. And I think too, people might look at me and not see that I feel the grief, like you just said. I just feel it very quickly. It's not that I don't feel it. It's not that
That's
I
where
don't
we're
step in.
different.
Yes, yes, for sure. I just kind of like throw myself a pity party, but I do it in like about a tenth of the time a normal person probably does it. And then I'm like, all right, game on. Here we go. You're doing this. You go do that. And I'm like, I just kind of get out of my huddle a little faster. I'm like the break before people are like, wait, we're breaking. We're ready. That's the difference. But I do have to feel it. And I want people to know that too, because it probably looks from the outside like I'm just cruising through and I'm fine. No, no, no. Trust me, I felt 2020. I'm feeling 2020 for sure.
And I've just worked with thousands of people who can't feel through that
Yeah.
quickly. So I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
that's a really, if you could teach people how to
I
shift.
wish I could, but it doesn't work like that. I'm like, just get over it. And they're like,
And
no, that doesn't help me. Thank you.
I think the
Yeah.
natural response potentially looking at you is just to be like, well, she doesn't feel it. So either
Yeah.
will I. And so I'm so glad you said
Yes.
that.
I had to say that because you really do have to go there. You do have to let yourself be like, this sucks. Like, I hate what is happening. Right. And you have to feel like what that is. But then I just don't want to waste any more time than I have to continuing to feel it and repeat that thought over and over.
I agree because worrying is just expending the wrong energy. What are
Yeah.
you going to put towards that action? And a lot of us are A type, thought leaders who want to
Yeah.
move our businesses forward and impact lives. And staying in a zone of worry or anger or is just unhealthy for us. And it
Hmm.
really impacts our brain health and our cellular health. So just moving through that quickly.
Yeah.
And so I think even feeling when we do that, looking at it and saying, how is this impacting my business with numbers? We never connect our feelings to numbers.
Hmm.
I'd love for people to start considering that.
Yeah. I love that. Selena, thank you so much for being here today. Where can people find you online, on social, anywhere you want to share? I'd love to have them connect with you.
I'm so grateful to be on. My website is selinagray.com. I'm on Instagram, Selina G Money, and I've got a She's a Money Boss Facebook group. Come hang out with us. We love to blow up how we see money and how it's really honoring our lives differently. And we all want to have more money, but it's that place where inner richness matters.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy spot is different, and I think
Hmm.
more money is useful, but it's not always better. So we need to really think that through the relationship, the state of being connected to ourselves and our business. So
Yeah.
I love to change that conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you for showing up and sharing your brilliance today.
Thank you for everything.